and stay attentive.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elliscope. I am the co-founder of NAVI protocol. And today, we'll come to the conversation of why the move is onboarding at the speed. I'm very pleased to be here today with the creator of Move, Sam Blackshear, and also the co-founder of Mysten Lab, as well as Rushi, the co-founder of Movement Labs, the newly layer 2 built on top of Move language, to start this conversation. So the first conversation, I want to start with Sam. As the creator of the Move language, can you tell us more about how language got started and how does that feel?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Elliscope. So I'm happy to tell you the story. So I started off my career as a programming languages researcher. I did a PhD studying formal verification, static analysis, and then for many years in academia and industry, I worked on building automated bug finding tools. And your job when you build automated bug finding tools is you read a lot of code, you see a lot of bugs, you get to understand where are languages setting developers up for success, where are they setting developers up to fail, what are things that make languages easy to reason about, what makes them hard. And so inevitably, like, you just develop a lot of opinions about software safety, about language design, about what works well and what doesn't. And so in 2018, after a couple of years working on this stuff at Facebook, I got invited to join the Libre project and lead the effort on smart contracts there. And if you've spent a career studying programming languages, the opportunity to design a new programming language in a space where safety is super important is obviously a dream kind of job. So I jumped at that opportunity, and I got to Libre, and what I spent the first couple months doing was the same old thing I did before, but for smart contracts instead of the kind of code I was looking at Facebook. Read Bitcoin code, read Solidity code, read EVM, and figure out, like, okay, what kind of programs are programmers trying to write? Where is the language helping them? Where is it getting in their way? What's working well and what's not? And basically, there are a bunch of things I saw, but there were two major ones. So the first one is like, boy, for a setting where safety is of the utmost importance, and the consequences of getting something wrong is someone's going to take your money, there's not a lot of built-in safety features here. Things like reentrancy, this is 2018, this is like the times of the DAO hack was like the popular thing in the zeitgeist. Things like integer overflows, things like missing authentication checks. These are all things that are like a big problem with Solidity and the EVM. It seems like you want really nice baked-in safety features, not to leave these to chance. And then the other thing is that almost all of these programs are about assets and access control. And so like you want to have really good abstractions for defining assets, for saying who holds them, for saying when they can be transferred and when they can't. And those were also missing. And so with Move, like the two main things we're really trying to do is to solve those problems. Like we want safety by default. If there's a way to provide a feature that can avoid bugs, like we want to do it. And when we update the language, we want to make sure that we preserve those nice safety properties that we already had and make things continue to be cohesive. And then in terms of nice abstractions, like we want the right way to encode assets, to encode access control, and we want this to be very high level, not something low level that we ask programmers to implement again and again. And so I think this is really what language design is like if a programming language could do everything well, there'd be one programming language and we'd all use that. But they're fundamentally tools for problem solving, and they succeed to the extent that they solve the problem they're trying to tackle, and they fail if they lose focus and try to do too much. So with Move, smart contracts are very idiosyncratic. They're not as broad of a problem domain as writing a compiler or an operating system or web app. So you can really just focus single-handedly on those two problems. So at Libre, over 3 years, I worked with a variety of really great folks on the design and implementation of Move, folks like Dario, who designed the bytecode format of VM, Todd, who designed the compiler, folks who did early engineering, like Tim and Runtian and Victor. And we learned a lot. We did a lot of things well. We made a lot of mistakes, I think many of which we later fixed when we sort of got a second bite at the apple with SWE. But that's the story of how Move got started.
Wow, that time must fly by, And the second question is for Rushi. Rushi, could you introduce to us a little bit what Movement Labs is and how its relationship to the Move? And how does that differentiate and stand out among all the other layer 2s?
So my story isn't as cool as Sam's. I was in college reading Sam's tweets and articles and the entire Libre project. And it was super cool because I was early Cosmos engineer, early Ethereum engineer, and I was getting hacked constantly. And it was pretty difficult writing Solidity code. So here was an opportunity for the Move language to really solve all issues that Sam explained better than I could. And I think our thesis, like November 2022, is like we were building on Aptos. I built one of the first apps on Aptos. My co-founder also was a builder. We were 2 community members, actually. And the general thesis was we really believe in this language for the reasons Sam outlined, but we wanted to bring it to the broader Ethereum community. I was building in Cosmos and Ethereum, and no one heard about Move at the time there. So the general thesis of movement is bring the language of Move, bring the principles of Move for security, for block STM, for high throughput execution on Ethereum as a layer 2. So yeah, we're the first Move layer 2 in Ethereum. So pushing forward the work that Sam and other folks in Move have been doing.
One of the key factors to evaluate the growth of the developer community is numbers. According to the Electric Capital report, there are 7.5% of developers are writing Move language, which is a 50% increase than a year ago. So this is a question for Sam and both. What's driving the Move developer growth?
Yeah, absolutely. So the number story, I'll tell you a number story, and I'll tell you a sort of like community and culture story. So when you look at the numbers, I think like the latest Electric Capital report is from July of this year, so that runs from July 2023 to July 2024. In July 2023, Sui was really, really new. It had just come out like 2 months ago. And on any new platform, no matter how easy it is to learn, it takes developers a really long time to get started, to build momentum, to figure out what they're trying to do, and for other developers to build the sort of infra that some apps need to get started. And so I think like 2 months in, Sui didn't have a lot of momentum. But fast forward a year to July 2024, and especially like sort of beginning March 2024, there's been a ton of momentum. Like that Move growing at 50%, like Sui is growing even faster, and like the high 60%. And we see this in the numbers, but also just subjectively from energy in the developer community. Like we started to hear, I think, like around early 2024 of last year, like this meme that we really like of like Sui has the best developer experience, and Move is a big part of that. And this is the sort of thing, like, of course, it's our goal, and we wake up every day, like, going after that, but you can say it till you're blue in the face, and no one's going to listen. People only listen when other developers are saying that, and they can show you what they've built and actually put something behind it. So I think especially in DeFi, like, we've had really excellent builders like NAVI, like Aftermath, like Scallop, like Cetus, like Kriya, that have really shown what you can do with Move and sort of pushing the boundaries with some of the new features that we've added. And I think combined with the TVL growth in Sui, that's really been a driving force in the Move developer community from both the numbers perspective and the more subjective perspective.
Yeah, I think I like to remind people when Solana was starting off, it took like 4 years to get to where it is today. So when people talk, like I think 6 months ago, people were asking like, why is Move growth slow? I was like, well, comparatively to like Solana's growth, we're actually doing pretty well. It takes time, like Sam said, for developers to come, TVL to form, like a community built around Move. So I think like take a step back, look at other programming languages, other VMs, and I would say the Move ecosystem is doing objectively well. We have a vibrant ecosystem across all Move L1s, L2s, whatever. There's a lot of Move infrastructures. I think there's like 9+ Move VMs in some capacity. We have Move in Bitcoin, we have Move in TON, we have Sui and Aptos, we have layer 2s, layer 3s. So we're seeing innovation across the board, and I think it's actually really net positive because when Solana started off, it was just the only SVM. But now we have like so many Move VMs coming to market, spreads more like gospel of the Move language, and I think net positive for everyone involved.
And the next question is for Sam. Just from the technical standpoint, I think it's really worth to discuss and understand, how does this Move language, especially for a lot of builders here, really differentiate, stand out than the traditional Solidity-based languages?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the safety aspect, which I think is by far the most important thing. I think people are tired, as Rushi said, people are tired of getting hacked. And really, like, if you're a builder, you want to focus on the thing you're trying to do and minimize the side concerns. So I think that's like the top goal and the #1 most important thing. I think there's a number of other features that are differentiating that have been important, especially recently. So with Sui, like one of the things we focus on a lot and talk about a lot is objects, which is, there's one representation for coins, for NFTs, for in-game assets, for packages. And this is a unifying abstraction throughout the stack. So if you're a programmer, you write objects. If you're a wallet developer, you show objects in the wallet. If you're calling a function, you pass objects in. Objects are inputs to transactions. They have a built-in display functionality. And so like having this common vocabulary throughout the stack, I think, avoids a lot of indirection that you have with the EVM data model or with the Solana data model, where what developers write is one thing, but then what people are actually seeing higher up the stack is something that has to be recreated via view functions or via some other layers of indirection that just makes life trickier. So really, like with objects, we think the gap between thought, like you explained to sort of your non-technical friend what your smart contract is trying to do, and the actual code is about as small as it can be, and that's been a big advance. One other trend, and I think something that the Move is doing well compared to other languages, is there's this programmable transaction blocks feature. So what this allows you to do is that in most platforms, you call one smart contract function, and then that's it. And then maybe there's a batching feature where you sort of smash a lot together, but it doesn't give you much more than that. And so with programmable transaction blocks, you call a function, it takes objects in, objects come out. You can pipe them into the next function. You can then throw another function behind that. Maybe the first function pipes objects into the third function. It has this nice, strongly typed Lego block structure that makes it really easy to build up more complex transactions. And importantly, you can do this on the client side, like from a TypeScript front end. You can do it from Rust. You don't have to write new Move code to compose the Move smart contracts already out there. And I think this is a super, super important thing because, of course, we love Move. We all love writing contracts, but it's even better to meet developers where they are on the client side already and let them just leverage Move in really rich ways without having to drop down into the smart contract layer when they don't need to. So I think those two things are, there's a long, long list, but I think like those are near the top of features that developers tell me when they say like, I've come to Sui, and this is what I'm really liking about it compared to where I was before.
Yeah, and the next question for Rushi. Because Movement Labs aims to be the layer 2, how does the Fractal as well as Hyperlink help contribute to this vision? And specifically, why do the cross-chain interval blockchain is really important in the ecosystem?
The question like why what's the Fractal you're referring to?
Yeah, the Fractal and Hyperlink.
Oh, the conversion? Are you talking about? Yeah, so I think one thing that we recognize is like Move is a really highly performant language, but in the Ethereum ecosystem, majority is still Solidity developers. So how do you bridge the gap between EVM, Ethereum, and those diehard maxis, and the language and gospel we're trying to like shill, right? So we do it the two ways. A, by living on Ethereum as layer 2, inheriting Ethereum liquidity and security. But most importantly, I think one thing that we brought to the market was Fractal, which is our EVM interpreter. So right now, if you go on our testnet, you can deploy Solidity code right out of the box, or you can deploy Move code out of the box. So we kind of want to be best of both worlds. I think the way we market is like our EVM is not going to be as good as the existing EVM. It's obviously interpreter, obviously this translation, but it allows EVM developers who never would try Move to at least enter the ecosystem. So let's say, for example, you have a Uniswap fork or a Curve fork, or you have a perps DEX on like Ethereum and Arbitrum, whatever, and you want to try the Move system, you can still deploy your code and be part of the Move system, part of the Move community, part of the testnet. But then you'll quickly realize that it's much better to write Move out of the box. You'll have higher throughput. You'll have all the security guarantees that Move has. So it's kind of a way of onboarding. It's similar to like Solana Solang or what Neon attempted to do with Solana, where you can attempt to bridge the gap between EVM and Move land through this interpreter. So I think by focusing more on the Ethereum ecosystem and the EVM ecosystem, we're bringing new devs into the Move ecosystem.
Amazing. We have talked about the developer communities, and now let's move on to the results. It's been more than a year since Sui launched mainnet, and the Sui community has reaching 18 million active wallet address with close to 500K daily active users. And not only on that, from the technical product standpoint, they're having great product innovation launch like Walrus, the decentralized storage, as well as PTB, programmable transaction block, as well as the MySten mainnet that got launched. All transactions along Sui network has been reduced to transaction speed by 70%. And NAVI, we were also very fortunate to have the average transaction speed of 0.7 seconds for per transaction. And NAVI was also able to carry out the $8 billion borrowing volume as a landing ball protocol on top of this Sui mainnet. It's only been a year. I think Sui has achieved a lot. I think there should be a little bit applause for Sam and all the builders here. So the question is, the speed and growth is magnificent. But what do you think of Sam? This is a question for Sam. What do you think is going to be drive the next technical big bang moment for the Sui and Move in general?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I appreciate the kind words. I think this is a hard year to follow up on. We had ZK login, send transactions from Google accounts and Facebook accounts and these sorts of things. We had Mysten, as you mentioned, so 700 millisecond latency. That's been quite good. And then we have some more product-y tech things like Inoki, where you package together ZK login and sponsored transactions just to make it really easy getting started developing apps without worrying about the wallet barrier or the acquiring tokens barrier. And then Stash, which is leveraging ZK login to have just a really accessible web wallet that you can connect directly to your favorite apps like NAVI. And so I think a lot of what we're excited about going forward. So you mentioned Walrus. Walrus DevNet is out. So we're really focused on Walrus testnet. There's a lot of work to do in terms of the features that we need to add. The Walrus hackathon is coming up this month, and then mainnet is a little bit beyond that. So I think it's such a new thing to have. I think of it as Sui today, like it's a computer that has RAM but no disk. And it's when you have Walrus, you'll add that disk. And I think there's just lots and lots of things we're seeing that you can do, especially because Walrus is so nicely integrated into Sui, and with Move, just in terms of programmability you can do with the Walrus storage resources and these sorts of things. So that's the tech perspective, but I think the big bang moments I'm most excited about are, okay, we've spent so much time on developer infrastructure and core features. I think the things that it's possible to build on Sui now are substantially different than a year ago, and there are at least a couple things in the pipeline that I can't talk about here that are using everything or a substantial subset of what we've done that I think are going to make a big difference. So I think we'll definitely have more big bang tech moments going forward. I think Walrus is the biggest of those. For a smaller big bang, movie Nooms are dropping this week. We're quite excited about that. But I think really like the product and developer big bangs going forward are the ones I'm the most excited about.
That's amazing. Okay, now we're gonna go to the short answer a little bit. Lightening up round of Move favorite for fun and to appeal to the Move nerds. What's your favorite Move feature, Sam?
Rushi, why don't you start off? I've been talking a lot.
Well, there's two types of moves, so I'll focus on app.moves, moves, or what we use. I think Move Prover is really interesting. Having formal verification runtime when you execute smart contracts, checking for resource type memory safety, which is probably one of the bigger features of the Move VM that we use. But generally, like type safety, memory safety, I think our thesis is like security in Ethereum has always been like a meme. Everyone knows it's kind of important. It's like privacy, where everyone is like, we need security and privacy, but no one actually does anything. I think Move and the entire moving system is really focused on making security sexy again, which is kind of our motto.
Yeah, I'm tempted to say objects, but I already talked about that. So I think that's definitely my answer from a developer perspective. From a programming languages researcher theorist perspective, I really like the ability system. Move comes from this tradition of so-called substructural type systems like linear types and affine types that Rust kind of has and that some other research languages have had. But then abilities, and hat tip to Todd from the Mysten team, who this is his brainchild, really came up with a way to package this with the persistent storage that blockchains have, that you can express all of those combinations, but express other things as well. So every time I write, has key, has store, copy, these sorts of things, I smile a little bit. That one definitely makes me happy.
And let's keep the question a little bit short. Favorite Move IDE?
I use VS Code.
Yeah, I use VS Code. I don't know what plugins you like. I really like the Mysten Move one. Of course, got to prop that. And I just met a dev yesterday, Jet from DSRV, who built this really awesome, they call it Sui extension, where it has really nice integration for publishing and upgrading smart contracts. You can use both those together.
I hear about this. If there's a cursor for like SVM or MoveVM, that'd be super cool. I think Cursor is taking over for the AI blockchain tools. So I'm curious to see if you guys are working on like AI Move dev tools at all.
Yeah, we have a lot of folks that are looking at that. I mean, the big challenge, and you guys probably see this too, is you need more training data. There's not enough training data for Solidity, and for Move, there's even less. I mean, we're looking at things like, let's decompile all the mainnet packages. We've got 24,000 packages. Some of them are pretty big, so that part kind of helps. But then the quality of decompiled code is not exactly what you want for having a high-quality model. So we're looking at a bunch of different things there. I would love to get to that point. I have to say, I do have some reservations about. I think AI assistants are great. I think for smart contracts, the code is small enough and is so dense that maybe you just want to write from scratch and have AI help you generate the tests, maybe generate the specs and other things. But let's see. We're always getting surprised.
I have to cut it short because we're now running a presidential debate here.
We need NAVI to ship more code.
All right. So the last question is actually one of my most favorite. Since Move is still a new baby, and it is time really for exciting to Sui and Movement Labs, title sponsor for the Korean Blockchain Week. This is people like, as a builder myself, running NAVI. I think Move is really the new language. It's like the the electric car versus the gasoline car that have been running for decades. So how do you guys foresee the upcoming 5 to 10 years growth for the Move language and its ecosystem in general?
I think we're focused on the Ethereum ecosystem and catering to those developers. And for the first time, we're seeing this alternative VM expansion. When we started Movement, everyone's like, the EVM is one, anything not EVM is awful. And today, everyone's like, loves alternative VMs, WASM VMs, et cetera. So I think the future of Move is just being part of many ecosystems as possible. Our thesis is Move everywhere, where we believe in the secure programming, the secure VM, and our goal is for developers to use it on all blockchains. I'll be happy if there's more Sui developers in the next 6 months, because that's just more Move developers in general writing better code. So I think in thesis, we believe Move exists everywhere, and it's end game 10 years from now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. You know, the analogy I like to use, and this is a bit inflammatory, but you know, I generally think it's accurate, where I think in the long run, I think Move is the JavaScript of Web3, and I think Solidity is the COBOL of Web3. Now, COBOL is still a very popular language. It's running a lot of important legacy finance infrastructure. It's not going anywhere, but I think the new code, you know, if the future looks like we hope it'll look, like the kids in school will be learning Move, you'll be writing the new stuff in Move. This is sort of like what's pushing forward. This is what new chains are going to use, which is a trend that we're seeing. And then from the tech perspective, I think the most important way Move can evolve is to make it easier to use Move up the stack at the application level. That kind of sounds like it's not a Move problem. It sounds like an SDK or RPC problem, but I think it really is, or it's productive to think of it this way. So things like programmable transaction blocks help with this, but I think anything you can do where smart contracts offer this new kind of API that gives you atomic composability, that gives you shared state, that gives you sending money and programming with scarcity. And anything you can do to just let developers use that in place without having to drop down, I think is going to be the most important direction for Move to be going in. So Move everywhere, both across other chains and up the stack.
And you know, as a builder, final comments I want to add on top of there is I've only been building for Move for the past 2 years, close to 2 years. But the growth and the growth potential is just significant. And you know, this is the most robust builder community. Regardless of Movement Labs or Mysten, primarily Mysten, we're a very developer-focused team. And that also means that all the business people have the very developer sense of, you know, growing, helping more builders. You know, if there's no builders, then there's no great product. So that sense carries on throughout the culture and through Facebook, and they have the best technical documentation, the most supportive channel for all the developers, regardless where you are in South Korea, US or Europe, to get support at any time, 24/7. So, you know, as a builder that building DeFi and variety of tool and infrastructure, I think I'm very bullish on this. So today it's truly my honor to host Sam and Rushi today, and you know, they're the most approachable person I can ever imagine. So if you guys have, as a developer, business person, if you guys have any questions, please don't be shy to reach out to all of them. And yeah, let's become a mover.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Elliscope.